Transport across membranes, AQA Biology. Key terms. Simple diffusion is the net movement of molecules from a region of high concentration to an area of low concentration until equilibrium is met. Facilitated diffusion is the movement of molecules which are unable to pass through by simple diffusion and is made easier by protein channels and proteins. Osmosis is the movement of water through a partially permeable membrane from an area of high water potential to an area of low water potential. Isostatic is the surroundings have the same concentration as the cell contents. Hypertonic is that the surroundings are more concentrated than the cell contents. Hypertonics are the surroundings are less concentrated than the cell contents. Plasmolyzed is that the low water potential outside the cell or more concentration concentrated on the outside of the cell. Flaccid is isotonic, turgid is hypertonic, hemolyzed is hypertonic, concentrated is lower water potential, dilute has a higher water potential. Active transport is the movement of low concentration to an area of high concentration, moving against the concentration gradient. And co-transporters bind two molecules together and use the concentration gradient of 1 to move down the concentration gradient. Diffusion. Things that affect the rate of diffusion. Temperature, concentration, surface area, and the length of the diffusion pathway. Temperature increases the kinetic energy of the molecules, which leads it to cross over at a faster rate. Concentration. If a high concentration creates a steeper concentration gradient, and if the length of the diffusion pathway is thinner, that means it's quicker to get across. Fick's law. Fick's law composes of the surface area times the difference in concentration divided by the length of the diffusion pathway. Factors that affect facilitated diffusion. Well, the concentration gradient and the number of channel proteins or pores. Osmosis. Pure water has a water potential of 0. Water and solutes have a negative water potential because you have a lower water potential because of the solutes. Now this is the symbol for water potential. So if you're in an exam and you're running out of time and you don't have time to write full sentences, which I don't suggest you do, and always write full sentences, but if you wanna, you won't lose marks if you just draw that instead of writing water potential. And this is what osmosis looks like. Now the yellow in the picture, which are here and here, are the solutes. And as you can see, because these are solutes, it lowers the water potential. So if it's lowered, that means now this is the high concentrate. Now let me change the color. Now this area is now the area of higher concentration. So the water molecules will move across the partially permeable membrane into this side because it has the solutes until equilibrium is met. Factors that affect rates of osmosis. Well, the higher the water potential gradient is, the faster the water molecules will move across the partially permeable membrane. The thickness of the surface exchange. The thinner the surface exchange will be, the faster the rate, and the surface area of the substance. Active transport. Well, active transport requires ATP. And ATP is produced in the mitochondria during respiration. In an exam, I repeat, in an exam, do not write ATP is made in the mitochondria. No, you have to say it is produced during respiration in the mitochondria. If you just write in the mitochondria, AQA is very, very funny. They won't give you the mark. It literally says in bold, do not accept made in the mitochondria, unless it's in reference to respiration. And it's controlled by enzymes. How ATP produces energy? Well, it produces energy by the hydrolysis of a phosphate group, and it's a polymer of 3 because you have 3 phosphate ions. It's a single unit is AMP, 2 is ADP, And the equation is ATP produces ADP plus PI. And this is what it looks like. So let me get a pen. The high energy bond is broken, and this burst releases high energy. This breakage releases energy in the form of ATP. And the differences between facilitated diffusion and active transport. Well, active transport goes from a low concentration to a high concentration, and it also requires ATP. Whereas facilitated diffusion goes from a high concentration to a low concentration, and it's a passive process. However, the things that they have in common are that they both use proteins, and they both require a partially permeable membrane. Factors affecting active transport. Well, the speed of the individual carrier proteins present and the rate of respiration. Co-transport. If you like maths or understand things mathematically, then this might be helpful for you. So to write steps of processes like equations, so I do sodium plus glucose equals move across the membrane, and then I do like an arrow going down the concentration gradient, and then sodium leaves and potassium enters. If you like it like step by step form, like this is what happens then and this is what happens after that, then maybe this will make more sense. So basically, glucose binds with sodium ions. Let me even get the diagram up so you can see what I'm talking about. So we have the sodium ions, and they bind with the glucose ion. Now, once this occurs, they move down the sodium's concentration gradient, and then obviously because only the glucose is needed and we need sodium so this whole cycle can continue, potassium moves into the cell. So as potassium moves into the cell, it causes the cell to become more positively charged. So it forces sodium back out of the cell so it can be reused again, so this whole process can continue. Small intestines adaptations. Well, you have microvilli, which increases the surface area. A good blood supply is a short diffusion pathway and it's 1 cell thick. Now, an example of co-transport would be cyanide, and it's a respiratory inhibitor. So, without respiration, no ATP can be produced. If no ATP can be produced, then co-transport can't occur. If co-transport can't occur, then the organism will die. So it shows the role that co-transport has in the body. Now, the next video will be about cell fractionations, so how you can get internal organelles from the different cells. So if you like this video, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.